one Africa, one boy, one Africa, yeah, yeah, Africa, yeah, Africa, yeah, Africa,
It's Arabian entertainment.
Our attention, Eden Guru.
SUV ezali pona pomoko mpe ezali bosolo na biso.
Africa unite, unite, Africa, yeah, Africa, yeah, Africa, yeah, unite, Africa, yeah, Africa, yeah, Africa, No matter where you come from, no matter where you are, no matter what you are, no matter who you are, as long as you're a black man, you're an African, you're my friend. Make we live in unity, make we live as one, make we live in harmony. Our diversity is our strength. Oh, my brother, make we live as one. You are an African, 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 yeah. You are an African. Unite, Africa, yeah, Africa, yeah, Africa, yeah. Unite, Africa, yeah, Africa, yeah, Africa,
Okay. I think we're live. And I want to thank all of you that are joining. All of you that are joining the conversation today. Good evening, good afternoon to all of you that are watching across the Eastern Standard Times. We welcome you once more on the Pan-African Daily TV. I hope you all had a wonderful weekend and that I don't know what you guys were hanging out there doing on the continent, in the diaspora, but for me, wow. You see, I posted pictures of how I was just chillaxing with my community out here. We had so much fun, celebrations, birthdays, surprises, dancing. I can imagine on the continent would even be more. Apart from the incidents that occurred in Cameroun last night, and that's one of the topics that we're going to handle tonight. So I'm so happy all of you that are joining this show that actually were asking when we posted the massacre that happened in Mamfe, Cameroun, Manu division. So many people were actually like devastated and questioning and asking. And I said, just hold on. We're going to have professionals who are actually going to tell us what's going on the ground. And I hope, as you can see here, we have Professor Akuhmbom Mark Anthony. He has a huge biography. Please, he's gonna tell you himself who he is, what he's been doing around here. I'm just not qualified to describe this kind of human being sitting here. I'm telling you, Africans are so damn talented. We have so much knowledge on the continent. And sometimes I begin to wonder what happened that our curriculums did not actually feature, our professors that have done so much work in research. And we should be having their books like curriculum. So I want to shout out to all of you that are joining. If you're joining the show, make sure you are sharing. Thank you, Smith. I see you. Africa Unite. Yes, that's our anthem. And we give a big shout out there to ACUP for that national anthem, AKUP. And oh wow, I see my brother is watching live from Cameroun because they see the graphic person. This flyer is crazy. But the moment I punched this flyer, everybody was like, "You're so discriminating. You're always discriminating. Why you always bringing your brothers on the Pan African Daily? So why don't you just call it the Cameroon Daily Show, right?" No, it's just because things are happening around Cameroun now that actually cause attention, and not just because of that. Of course, Cameroon is small Africa, right? Small Africa, Africa in miniature, and also the sad things that are happening, and also the beautiful good things that are happening. That's why a combination of our conversation today is really going to be about the historic Cameroon that we know, the past, the impact of slavery, colonization, and why this great professor is trying to change the narratives in Cameroon on Pan-Africanism. I mean, it's not only CEO, founder, boss, anthropologist, and he has a very challenging background. He's a theologian in PhD and also an African spirituality practitioner. And I'll be like, what's going on? So I think this individual here is something. Is something we want to actually digest and find out. How can somebody be in this? What is actually pushing them out? So I want to thank all of you for connecting, and we have a 2 hours conversation. I think it's going to be more because this one is too knowledgeable and has a lot of things going on. For instance, the Panafest Cultural Festival and Awards that he's using and trying to, kind of bring Cameroonians in his space to the one Africa. And for him, it's a solution to stop all the crisis that is going on in Cameroon, just like we're doing for any other African country. Like the only way that we're going to chill down the tensions and the wars on the continent is actually to empower Pan-Africanism, right? The one Africa culture, the spirit and the blood of the African through our events, right? And by telling ourselves who we are, this way we stop the in-house fighting. Right. So I'm really going to go back into the studio and we welcome our guest, looking very handsome. I think he's a very young guy. Could be my junior, but I don't think we're of age mates, but his knowledge is so big. Greetings to you, my professor.
Greetings of peace from the motherland, greetings of joy, greetings of prosperity coming from Cameroon. And I also want to welcome everyone who is on platform watching. I want to invoke the name of Amon Ra with my nearest ancestors, Jo, Abonjo, and Gumo, to bless you people, and I speak prosperity over everything you lay your hands to do. I speak grace from our ancestors upon you, and I declare the season for our change is now and not tomorrow. Unless we take advantage of what is happening, we will be missing in action. Everything that is happening right now around the globe was orchestrated to push Africans to the place of manifestation. And the vast knowledge of our ancestors has actually been communicated to individuals at a time like this, and those who are willing to connect will certainly be awakened. For those of us who are still asleep, imperialism has done its best in the past to put you to sleep. But I think the time has come for the light to shine, and we are going to make it shine. Thank you for the opportunity to be part of this particular and wonderful program. Thank you, Dr. Tata, for accepting to bring some of us on the platforms like this to connect us with Africans around the globe so that we can communicate as well as share the very insightful thoughts which our ancestors actually communicated to most of us. Thank you again.
Thank you so very much, Professor. Um, without wasting so much time, what's happening in Cameroon right now since yesterday? What's happening? How is the community in Manfei, and how is the vibe?
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Tata. To get straight to it, you see, we are in Cameroon, and every day we talk about what is happening in Israel, what is happening in Ukraine, what is happening in Syria, but we fail to talk about what is happening in Africa. And as we are talking right now in Cameroon, there is a crisis that has actually been ongoing for the past, as you say, close to 7 years now, because it started in 2016. And recently, I think 5 days back, in the northwest region in Babanki, the kingdom of Babanki, we call it the kingdom of Kijom, some guys with arms came up by 3 a.m. in the night, we call it early in the morning, and actually kidnapped 9 persons. And 2 days after, they killed 2 persons. They came into the village, caught 2 persons, shot the 2 persons and killed. Then, 2 days back, while we were still struggling to digest what happened in the northwest region of Cameroon, another issue happened in the southwest region, where about 30 persons were shot to death by armed guys who came out in the night, shot and killed. According to the story coming from Manfei, is that when those guys came knocking at your door, if you open, they are shooting at you. It's not like they want to communicate. They don't even need to know what you want to say. They just shoot at you. And so, you see, this is a situation in which anybody that hears gets to feel a kind of pain in their heart. But these are just consequences, which most of us need to get to know. These are just consequences. Today we have a fight, we call it, we want to create another nation called Ambazonia within Cameroon. And that is coming from the fact that when the colonialists came to Africa, beginning with the Germans, when they came to Africa, the Germans actually went around, associated different kingdoms within the area and called it Cameroon. And when they did that, most of you will know a little bit of history. After the First World War, all the properties, as they called it, the colonies of the Germans around Africa were seized and handed over to those who won the war, as France and Great Britain. And this particular nation called Cameroon today, as they call it, was one of the German colonies. And these French and British colonialists, with their imperialist perspective, break the nation, or call it whatever, into two, because we are calling it nation, was just supposed to be a state in the nation of Africa. But you know what happened in 1884 and 1885 in the Berlin Conference, when they sat down without the consent of Africans, unanimously decided to break down the continent into pieces. Oh, I should call it, it was a bread on their table. which they actually took their time to break into pieces, created artificial borders, and have limited a lot of movement today in Africa, because most of the puppets that are sitting in power in Africa are struggling to maintain this colonial agenda for us. And like I said, Cameroon was shared as she used the word, a trust territory to the French and to the English. The French took 80% of the territory, and the English took 20% of the territory. And as a result of that, the intention was that each of these aspects that had been given over to the British and the French was supposed to become independent. And when the time came when these two trust territories were supposed to gain their independence, in 1960, January 1st, 1960, the French Cameroon got their independence from the French. We call it independence, but you know, that was just political independence, because economically Africa is still under the strings of colonialism and imperialism. Apart from that, it was time also for the Southern Cameroons, as it was called, because the portion that the British took, they broke it into two. In order for them to govern it, they broke it into two. One aspect was called the Northern Cameroons. Why? Because there were no inroads that were linking the two regions, the Northern Cameroons and the Southern Cameroons. And so the Europeans, the British in particular, had to break this thing into two and linked it with Nigeria as a body so that they could govern it. And so the Southern Cameroons, during their agitation, because for those of us who remember, the fact that the Southern Cameroons was part of the assembly in Enugu in Nigeria, and at a particular period of time, one of the ministers who was then Estimona with the Nigerian government, when he was sacked, the then Endele, who was like one of the speakers, or the speaker in the house at Enugu, got up and said, until Estimona is reinstated, then the Southern Cameroons will not be part of the Enugu. And nothing happened, so they withdrew themselves from there and asked for their own autonomy. It was 1954. And from 1954 upward, they built an autonomous government, let me call it a semi-autonomous government, which permitted them to govern themselves in the Southern Cameroons without the Northern Cameroons inclusive. And during the period when they were supposed to gain their independence, it happened that the British said they were not economically strong enough, and they did not have the natural resources enough to gain independence. That is what they brought as a backup story, and decided to say, okay, the only way for the Southern Cameroons to gain independence was to either join the French Cameroon, which was already independent in 1960, I beg your pardon, and the French, they joined the Nigerian Federation, which also got its independence on the 1st of October 1960. So, in relation to that, there was a plebiscite that had taken place, that took place on February 1961, and that plebiscite took place separately, the Northern Cameroons and the Southern Cameroons. And the Northern Cameroons voted to join the Federation of Nigeria, and the Southern Cameroons voted to join the Republic of Cameroon under the ban of a federation. And when that happened, they were supposed to then gain their independence on the 30th, on the 1st of October 1961. But on the night of the 29th of, let me say the 30th, beg your pardon, the 30th of September, the British secretly handed over the nation, the trust territory of Southern Cameroon to the French Cameroon. And on the 1st of October, the entire place was already filled with military of the French Cameroon, or the La République du Cameroun as it is called. And as a result of that, the people say they were annexed. You know, all this is just a story that is coming from colonial manipulation. All this was prepared to create a situation where we will never be stable. And so they did everything possible to create this kind of situations among Africans where at a particular period of time we will want to fight with one another. We will be divisive and we will not go back to where we were. And I'm going to talk to us because before the Europeans came to Africa, we need to understand what gave us the capacity to stay united as one people. It is true they told us that there were wars that were happening. You know, when somebody writes your history, the person can manipulate you. Europeans only came to Africa. In fact, the first European that entered Africa, if you have heard of Sao, who came from Portugal around the 15th century, claiming that he was sailing around Africa for one purpose, for the divine right of the Portugal over Africa. Who gave them that right to own Africa? That is what we are going to deal with today. So I said I want us to know that everything that we are going through right now was well calculated. That is agenda setting that was put in place, and they worked and worked and worked until to an extent they succeeded. But the same reason why I will tell you they have not really succeeded is because some of us, we are still seated here. We thank God for their schools that helped train some of us. We thank God for the opportunity that they gave us. Thank our ancestors for using this veil situation to open our eyes. So you realize that the situation in Cameroon is not different from the situation in Ethiopia, is not different from the situation in Togo, Ghana, it's not different from the situation in Congo Democratic. You can keep naming all these places around Africa, and you realize it came as a result of agenda setting by the colonialists. And brothers and sisters, Cameroon is where it is today simply because when they claimed that they gave them independence, the Southern Cameroons, and they joined the French Cameroon under that federal ban from 1961 till 1972, they were under that ban of federalism. And according to them, it was succeeding. until unanimously the then president of the federation, unanimously annulled the federation and created a United Republic of Cameroon. To an extent, it was not really a problem because there was still a United in the name. But after the present president, Mr. Paul Biya, in 1982, was given opportunity to be the president of the nation. 2 years after 1984, he changed the name of the country from United Republic of Cameroon to back to its original name before independence, before the joining of the English part, we call it the Southern Cameroon, back to La République du Cameroun. And immediately when that happened, there was the president of the Bar Association in Cameroon by then, and also a fund in one of the kingdoms in the Northwest region, Dinka immediately called the president that he has caused a secession. He has seceded from the original deal, changing the name from the United Republic and bringing it to La République is secession. That is what he brought. And it became a problem. And then he said, okay, he's creating his own nation, and he called it the Amber, using the Amber Bay, which is in Limbe. He said it's Amber. And that is how the name Amber came into existence. And like that, the people were struggling to live, and with all the problems, we were living together up till 2016, when the teachers and the lawyers asked that in the Anglo-Saxon, as they call it, system of education, the French system should not be taught in their classes. Then the lawyer said the common law is the only law that is supposed to be practiced in the Southern Cameroon. Okay, those are colonial names. I didn't hear them say customary laws are supposed to be reintroduced, because that is what we're using before the colonialists came, customary laws. But they said the civil law. To talk of the common law, the talk of the Anglo-Saxons. I keep on asking a lot of English those who are expressing themselves in Cameroon using the English language like me. I keep asking them this question: are you Anglo-Saxons? We are not Anglo-Saxons. We are Africans. We have no relationship with the English and the Saxons. They were the tribes in Europe, and their language has nothing to do with us in Africa. And I ask this question: is there an Anglophone in Africa? Is there a Francophone in Africa? Is there a Lusophone in Africa? All these names are colonial stigmatizations which have been placed upon us in order to drag us down continuously. And we have accepted it without even realizing the implication of it. If you might give me your ear again, I want to say something to you. The fact that we speak English because we were imposed, this is what we call in anthropology diffusion. We were imposed a language, and it was not our desire to learn English. I speak Kejom language, and Kejom is enough for me to communicate. But today, because of English, we are fighting one another. Somebody asked me a question: is it because of the language or is it because of the culture? I said the problem is most of us, we use this language we fail to understand is not our language. The acts of culture, the only culture I have is the African culture. And any other culture is looking for a means to destabilize me. And that is the reason why most of us got disconnected from our ancestors. Because we were no more having the opportunity to communicate with them using the language they understand. We now started speaking English. We went into communicating in another foreign language and borrowing foreign culture. And this foreign culture is the reason why my people are fighting. When we are struggling to unite Africa, some of them are struggling to divide it. How can we create mini nations when we are struggling to talk of a united Africa? I know we have this mindset that it is better to be free before you being united than to be in bondage and being united. That is not a problem. But where are we coming from? Where are we going to? Who are we? Those questions, we need to be able to answer them. Until you know who you are, you will keep holding the identity of another person as your own identity. There is a book that I would use this opportunity to say that I'm working on, that might be published this month or in June or in December, I beg your pardon, which is actually, the title of it is Africa's Dilemma, a people on the crossroad to choosing an identity. Why is it that we are today struggling with identity problems? I mean, black people everywhere in the world have a problem with identity. Be it in Africa, it is true that they are closer to the ancestral land, but they are more further than even those who are in Europe, than even those who are in the United States, in Southern America, in Asia. Call all the names that you can call. Most of us back home, some of us do not even know why we are here. And some of them are struggling every day to leave the continent. I keep on saying, when you do not know who you are, anything can give you direction. And you can take the name of a dog to become your name. So, if today my brothers are killing one another in Cameroun, it is because they say they want to be Anglo-Saxons and the others have to be Francophones. And so they are using another man's culture to identify themselves. And that has been a great limiting factor towards the progress of Africans. If you may permit me say this, ask our African brothers and sisters what they understand by culture. The culture of a people is their way of life. And the way of life of a people, because when you want to look at culture, there are several things you need to put in place. We are looking at a people in a society or a given territory. They have language, they have knowledge, they have a way of life that they succumb to. They have a religion that they hold. I want to ask us Africans, do we have any of this anymore? Most of us have become Christians and abandoned our very own religion. And you can never become free using another man's religion to be free. Secondly, you won't speak another man's language and be free. You can't borrow a lifestyle from another person and claim that that lifestyle is yours. You are a stranger to yourself. And so Africans have become strangers to themselves. And that is why we can't enjoy Akibulan. The beauty of this paradise will not unveil itself unless we reconnect back to our ancestral source and reawaken the beauty of this continent. If we don't do that, we'll be clowning and claiming that we are making progress. For your reminder, the civilizations of the world, and you, as you know, the present civilization in which we find ourselves in is collapsing. And if you are not keen, it will collapse along with you. But most of us, we are rising. And we expect every African to rise along, because this is a time for Africa to be great again. We have to take back what belongs to us. You know, when I speak about culture, there are several things that I really like to tell the people that are listening to me right now. But I'm sure we'll have a lot of opportunities to talk. But today, I'm going to say the things that I'm going to say that will permit you to choose to connect or reconnect, because that is what will make the difference in your life. Reconnect back to your source. And once that happens, the veils that are shedding you right now will fall, and you will find yourself in the light of the ancestors. And once you find yourself there, there is a dimension of knowledge which is not taught in schools. It is not taught and is not written in books. You can only discern it. And those who discern it are the initiates. If you are not initiated, you can never understand it. And so you must be born again. And we ask all Africans to get to that place where they are born again. Being born again, like the religious people of the Christian background, they use it. I don't even understand if they know what they are saying. I don't know if you understand it either. And so, I'm calling on Africans, you need to be born again. And the time for that is now, and I expect that a lot of us should rush to the continent. There are various spiritual portals, which once you are walking within the continent, you can gain access. When you are here, there are spiritual portals that you get access to knowledge through them. As I said, it is for the initiate. And we are going to talk better on this end. The intent is that every African become an initiate. You know, in ancient Egypt, in the Kemites, religion was not a practice. Or let me use this word, knowledge was not given to everybody. It was meant for the initiate. And for you to be able to climb in rank, you needed to get deeper in the alchemy of the Kemites. And so, the time for some of these things, I mean, I want to use a state, I want to make this statement, the circle for this manifestation to happen is almost coming to its close. And every one of us, we can hurriedly get initiated into this knowledge so that we can live a free life. You know, you can be in the midst of war and you are free. Can be in the midst of chaos, but you are fine. That only happens when you have gone beyond the three-dimensional world. You access the world of the ancestors and you can communicate, you can listen to them, they can talk to you, you get them sound, clear, and without stress. Okay, so I think I've been talking too much. Maybe you have other questions. I've been talking too much, please.
I don't think you've been talking too much. You've just been breaking down what is supposed to, and we have grown a lot in numbers. I mean, when this crisis started in 2016, we had a lot of lectures on it, and our YouTube channel, our platforms are exploding, and so new people are joining. So it's really good that you had to break down the background for those that never knew, because what happened in Mamfe, mind you, yesterday, and all of us shared this story, even Al Jazeera shared this story, and a lot of people were just like, what is going on in Cameroon? Because a lot of things have happened in the world since the crisis in Cameroon, and so people kind of go to sleep. That's why I love your opening statement when you said, now the question is Ukraine. Before, and now automatically it is Palestinian and Israelis, and automatically people have gone asleep. But what is happening in Cameroon and other countries, Sudan, Ghana, Ethiopia, is a reminder to Africans that we can't go to sleep when our houses are on fire.
True.
We can be debating and holding debates about Israeli-Palestinian questions when our people are dying every day. We can't even solve our own personal problems, charity beginning at home. So I'm very grateful, Professor, that you actually brought that limelight and kind of justify the reason why these things will not stop until we go back to the way we were living before all these colonial agendas and borders. For us to be free, we have to liberate ourselves. I really thank you. And you went deep again into, you know, the next question that I'm coming up, which is what I was saying to me. If I look at your profile and your background, you have 3 PhDs. I think 4 even. You have a PhD in anthropology,
Yeah.
the study and research of culture, and
Yeah.
then you have a PhD in theology.
True.
And then now you are an African spirituality practitioner.
True.
You own a whole school teaching young people about African spirituality and elders as well. Now, what is the time that you realize, or what is the first, what is the difference between both religion and then African spirituality? And are you doing both, or you are King Maponga Joshua? Everybody knows. I mean, he kicked out the church, not God or the Bible, but he kicked out the way the church was misrepresenting the facts in the Bible and started to go the African spiritual way and teaching. And I know he's a very good colleague of yours. And you're coming from the same school of thought as bishops, as prophets, but also now actually getting into African spirituality. Did you realize something wrong, or just give us a background of that? Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very much. You know, there is a big difference between religion and spirituality. Religion tells you of the various dogmas that you need to keep on holding on to. You keep doing them every day, in and out, and no change is happening in your life. But spirituality is getting to know yourself. Spirituality is getting to know yourself, and getting to know yourself is getting to know God. You know, when you read the sacred writings or declarations of the ancestors, you hear their thought pattern was like this. It says, our God is like the ocean. You know, to them, they came out with a conclusion that God is the great bodies of water, the great lakes. And it is from that particular perspective that they came with the understanding that God is that sea and we are drops of this same sea. And what does that mean? It implies that the contents of the water in the sea and the drop of water is the same. And so if you want to better know the contents of the sea, then you should start studying the contents of the drop of water, which is closer. And that drop of water is you, is me. So the focus of the ancestors is to know yourself. And knowing yourself permits you to know God. A lot of persons say that Africans are polytheists.
I think he's freezing out there, and I could hear the breakage. Do you hear us out there?
Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
I was saying something. I was saying that
You have to turn your
there
camera.
is a
Your camera.
Yeah, got it.
Yes. I know what the problem with the internet out there in Cameroon. I suffered from it. So, but it's okay. Go ahead.
Somebody actually tried calling, that's the reason. Because I'm using my phone.
Thank you, Mr. Parker.
Yeah. So, like I said, knowing that drop of water makes you to know the depths of God, and being able to contain this drop of water will permit you to have deeper insight of the sea. And once an African does not know this, he will think that being a Christian is better than being a spiritual person. Christianity is a religion, like Islamism is a religion, and others. We have the African traditional religion, as well as we have spirituality, African spirituality. The religion, there's religion in everything. I mean, even in the African spirituality, there's religion. And until you are able to differentiate all this, you might mix them. And maybe because somebody says, I am not a Christian anymore. I have a PhD in theology, as you actually said. And back in 2014, while I was taking a PhD in anthropology, particularly cultural anthropology, there were a lot of things that I understood. I started asking questions. How comes that these things were there and we never knew them and we condemned them? Then I went back to the scriptures and I started questioning them. And I saw the Old Testament, and to me, it resembled what I studied in anthropology. Then I started asking questions. Who canonized the Bible? Who made it an official book for the church to use? And, I'll give you some answers to that. What is called today the Old Testament section of the Bible was actually written in Greek, what we call the Septuagint, which was a translation, or let me put it, it was when Ptolemy became king. I don't want to use the word Pharaoh, because they came and colonized the land of the Kemites. When he sat in power and wanted to create the great library in Alexandria, he needed to have the writings of different people. To create that library, he asked the Jews to provide their writings. Then they sent 70 persons to come. He separated these 70 persons and gave them the opportunity to write. They wrote and brought it. He compared them and said, okay, they were alike. But there is a Hebrew text which was already existing, and Christians have refused to look into that particular Hebrew text, which is not written in Greek. Why is it that it is the Europeans that orchestrated the writing of the Old Testament, not the Jews? Why did they refuse that of the Jews? It's a question that we will answer. Secondly, the New Testament that we are having today, the next question is, who canonized it? You come back with me and you will still know that it is not the Jews who canonized it. The compilation of the Bible in the first place was not written by Christians, was written by a pagan king called Constantine. Constantine the Great, during Nicaea, the Council of Nicaea, is the one who called for the Council of Nicaea in 325. When he called for the Council of Nicaea in 325, he had to tell one of the bishops who was his friend, Eusebius of Caesarea, and he told him to compile the Bible. And he dictated what was supposed to be in that Bible. Who was? Was he a Christian? No, he was not. Why is it that some of the sacred books that carry truth were removed from that same Bible? Because I am not against the Bible or the God of the Bible. I'm against the manipulation that was applied in order to hold a people in captivity in the name of religion. And when he came up with that, that was a tool to use in formatting the minds of individuals who were so zealous for God, who wanted to know God, who wanted to actually know God, not an issue of religion. And from 325, the European agenda to hold the world, manipulate it, and rule it went into operation. So it is not an agenda that started yesterday. It's a very old agenda. And from then, today, I see a lot of persons who say, quote the Bible, quote the Bible. I want some of you who are listening to me, if you are new, I'm sure you have listened to a lot of things on this same platform. And I want to tell you, if you have read the Book of Light, which some people call the Egyptian Book of Death, it's called, the real name is the Book of Light. Some people call it Egyptian Book of Death. Then you compare it with some of the versions of the Bible. Compare it with the scriptures of the Bible. You realize that some of them were just borrowed. So why go and study something that was borrowed than go to the original? Those were questions that I put in place after I did both theology and anthropology, and I sat behind and I told myself, there's something wrong somewhere, and I need to correct it. You'll be surprised to hear that I was running churches, that I handed over the churches, I closed them up. And as an individual, I stayed back from going to church because I needed to know God. A lot of us, we say we were preaching God, which in reality we did not know the God we were preaching. Can you tell me how it is possible that God has created a world, then he created hell to send them there? He creates people, then he creates a hell to send them there. What's part of it? Don't you hear this childish myth that is picked out from the Bible that tells us that God sent away the devil from heaven to come and be on earth? Is there not a problem there that you give your children a room to stay in, then a dog is inside your room, you choose to send that wild dog to the room of your children? Are you not a wicked God? That God should be very wicked. So if that is the God I'm going to be saving, I refuse not to save that kind of God. That is not the kind of God that my ancestors know. You know, when you get to understand that there are esoteric beings that litter around us, an energy that is surrounding us every day, and you get to understand that you as a person, there are points where if you do, in fact, if you remain in the darkness or in your ignorance, as they put it, these forces control your life without even your understanding. And the agenda of Christianity succeeded because, or let me say, of the Europeans succeeded. They succeeded in their mission to an extent because more than 1/3 of the world is under the sway of Christianity. And the other aspect, the Abrahamic religions, Islamism, they have about 1/3 also of the world under their sway. These things or regions do not help you become. So, that is how the religion of Christianity was set up in 325 AD and subsequently upgraded in 381, what we call the Council of Constantinople. Then further upgraded the Council of Ephesus in the 5th century. And further, they have 7 different councils that they are held to upgrade this religion, which they can use and which they have been using to manipulate the world. A lot of persons are hungry to know God because it is the quest of every heart. And so they can be manipulated. The only reason why Africa seems more grounded, or let me use the word drowned, in this issue is because primarily we are a people that were grown, we are a holistic people. We are a people that we see everything from a spiritual perspective. And so when that lack exists, anything that comes can feel it. And so when the colonizers, let me begin with the slave masters, and they came to Africa to steal our people, kidnap them, and claim that our royalties, our funds, our kings sold our people. It's a lie. You know, a lot of persons have believed that lie. And when they came, what they used missionaries to introduce this their God. A God who tells, I want to cite a situation that happened in the Kingdom of Congo, where the church, in quotes, asked to be paid for them to perform rituals. And ask me, what did they ask to be paid with? They asked that they should pay them with slaves. The church asked to be paid with slaves before they can perform rituals of the church. Who are these slaves if you want to perform rituals? So they never actually came here for God, to teach us God. Because in the first place, they don't know God. I can show you the example today. You are in Europe. Go around the United Kingdom. Check how many cathedrals have been abandoned. You are in Germany. Just go stroll around and tell me how many cathedrals are empty. That's because they don't believe in the stories that they tell the people around. And if in reality, these same people who came to Africa struggling to steal gold, and they are still struggling to today through neo-colonialism and imperialism, it is their imperialism to grab everything that Africa has. Do you really think if heaven was real, like they thought, they would have brought it to Africa to teach us? I don't think so. They would never have come with heaven to tell us. Telling us they start with gold. They would have been the ones to go there so that they can get all the gold there. So that to me is a myth. It's a story for babies. And Africans have accepted and believed it. Although some of them can stone you for talking against. Today, some of them abuse it talking about Protestantism. When our people were being enslaved here in Africa, one of them, Martin Luther, is from the same country where you are right now, our beloved Dr. Tata. Martin Luther got up and, based on his desire to want to see a revolution in church, he decided to create his own canon and also reduce the books that were inside the Bible and came up with his own. What a confusion. There's a serious confusion in the Christendom, which I think needs to be rectified before it should be taught to people. And today, Africans are busy fighting and killing one another for that same rubbish. So, you wanted to know how I got to go back. I went back after actually did a study, a research work in anthropology on culture, the African culture.
Mm-hmm.
And I was baffled. I was completely taken off my feet.
Mm-hmm.
And so, when that happened, I told myself I need to get to a place. I need to be able to reconcile the two. And you cannot reconcile the two by trying to practice the two. You have to pull yourself aside and get to start talking to yourself. When I asked myself a lot of questions that I could not answer, I needed answers. I had to start seeking for insight. Most of what I know today was not taught to me through books. I started hearing the voices of my ancestors. And that is the day I understood that the Jews had, you see, they have been practicing the ancestral belief system where the belief in the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. Wow. Those are their ancestors. And so I asked myself, do I have my own ancestors? Yes. Why then believe in the ancestors of the people that are not connected to me? Some of us today who have joined or become part of
Your sound. Finally, he's been kicked out. I think I'm very, very confident that we're going to have him again with us here. But in the meantime, I want to thank all of you for watching. And actually, those that are learning. Those that already know, you don't need to learn anything anymore. So you're very contented with your position, and that's fine. Um, the purpose of this lecture, like today, is for us was for us actually to bring an indigenous son who has gone through the passages in life to be able to really comfortably explain to us the situation that we have on the ground in Cameroon first, and then secondly also to talk about his transition from the past into the present of what he's doing now, and up till truly converting into an African spirituality practitioner and building a united Cameroon and a united Africa, not a united Cameroon, a united Africa empowerment for economics, for economics. And so one of the things that the brother or is actually the professor is talking about is the things that actually made him to convert to say why we are poor is because of the religion that we were given. If a religion teaches you that everything is fine, you're going to go to heaven, you don't need to work, you don't need to bother yourself, you need to give your widow's mite, and you keep giving and giving and giving and be contented with the crumbs, then that is impoverished minds. Some Christians are strong enough to understand the difference. Majority, 80% on the continent, not. So when we come up with conversations and teachers like this in their expertise, the most polite thing we do is we listen and we make our research, and I take what I know and I take what I don't know. So coming into the different spaces that we've been operating, I just hope that he will come back, because we still have very important programs that he's putting on the ground, really for people who wants to know more and to visit. Even he has an event that is coming up, as he told me. I think that event we had to discuss about it is also taking place in Cameroon, Douala, and it's a cultural Panafest. Panafest. That's why you saw on his name, Panafest is a Pan-African fest. And I think a lot of nations on the continent are being part. And so he actually had that drive, because he's also in a group on the Pan-African Congress, Pan-African Conference in South Africa and stuff like that. And he's networking with all this parliament, from the Julius Malema to all the other parliaments of Pan-Africanism, and actually bringing this stuff to say, if we would know who we are, celebrate ourselves, our culture, our event, and just mind our business, he thinks that we'll be more closer to gaining our economic independence, and also getting a stable Africa than just have, and that's the event flyer that is coming up while we're waiting for him to join. It's called Panafest International Cultural Expo and Festival 2023, taking place in Douala, and Douala is the economic capital of Cameroon, from the 30th of November to the 3rd of December. And the theme is the valorizing and monetizing African culture. So we have business conference, workshop, cultural exposition, runway shows, and Pan-African Excellence Award. So we're still coming into the essence of economic empowerment through Pan-Africanism, which is actually one of the one of the factors that we know, except we get economic liberation, every other thing is not. But how do we get there if we don't even know who we are? How do we get there if we don't know the culture of doing business? How do we get there when we don't even understand who we are? When we are still, displaced, misplaced, and then the upcoming challenges in the country, the IDPs, and people that are really advocating to be heard, marginalized, these are all challenges that we have to work on the continent, but life must go on. While we face those challenges, it doesn't mean that the world will stand still because Palestinians and Israelis are fighting. So I think, oh, thank God, he's back. Good, wonderful. Thank you. You're back, Professor. And I know it's really challenging. I know. I understand. But
We are in
let's leave the religious topic and the in-depth maybe to another session that will go on. And because of time and also your internet challenge out there, we go into actually the Panafest Cultural Festival. I mean, you've been networking with a lot of Pan-African organizations and putting that Panafest together. So what is Panafest? Um, and what activities? How can one attend? Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much again for that. Panafest, like this called Panafest, simply is an abbreviation for Pan African Cultural Festival. that's what Panafest actually meant before we started coming up again with the Panafest International Cultural Festival, all that. But it is Panafest in itself is Pan African Cultural Festival.
Mm-hmm.
And we came up with this particular vision because of the fact that we realized that Africans do not know who they are. Africans have lost their identity. And for us to be able to work in restoring the identity of who the African man is, we need to be able to have a strategy put in place. And so we said, okay, for us to reach out people love when they get to introduce several things. For example, you need to want to see dancing, you come and see how they are doing a cultural dance. You need to know the story behind each activity that happens anywhere. And so why would use the time to tell you the juju dancing or whatever you call it, this particular ritual that is done like that. Once you get to know the story behind, it pulls you closer.
Mm.
The intention was so that we use the mission to arrive to the vision, which is cultural identification of Africans. And this is not going to take one person, it is going to take all of us working together. And as I will remind us, Africans are everywhere. You are not in Europe. In fact, you are not an African simply because you were born in Africa. Whether you were born in Europe, United States, Southern America, or wheresoever, as long as you put on this skin that I'm putting, you're a member of my family. And you are my kin. Though we have a problem today that we have a lot of persons of our kind, but they are not our kin. We need to teach them how to become our kin. So, irrespective of where you are, because some of you diaspora is not only those, they are not only those who left Africa to go to Europe to go learn and live there. The diaspora of Africa are those, even those whom their ancestors were carried from Africa through slave ships. And we need every African back home. Every African back home here in Akuhmbom land, so that we can reconnect to our ancestral lineage. There are some of you, your family lineages are back here. The foundation stone of your life is here. And even if you fly where you are, you might think you have already, your country is that and that. Like I was talking with the ambassador of Suriname to, I'm forgetting his name, this country in Southern Africa. And he told me he wants to participate in Panafest and he wants to come to Panafest. Suriname, if you go to Suriname, they were Africans that were carried to the Central America, and they are there. You go to Suriname, you think you are in Africa, but the only thing that is lacking is that spiritual atmosphere that surrounds them. There, the air is empty. That we need Africans back here at home. We connect here with our ancestors. We learn who we are. We identify ourselves. Then we can now talk of taking the war. You know, it's like Kwame Nkrumah said, when the nations of the colonies, as they were called during that period, were about to gain their independence, some of them that got their independence, he said, this is not where it's supposed to end. He said, because if we end here, another wave of colonialism will come, which will be stronger. And it is here right now as we are talking. It was not a prophecy. He was speaking out of what he saw. And that was because he understood that this guy, if you give them the least opportunity, they will seize the entire continent. And that is why today, if you look very well, they are buying lands everywhere around the continent. There is neo-colonialism taking place, and it had been predicted by Kwame Nkrumah when he asked them that we should form an immediate union for the purpose of our economic strength. We should back ourselves. We should be able to stand, create one union, and not just a union like the African Union that we have today, which is a toothless bulldog, a union that binds us economically with a currency that permits us to not have borders anymore. Those things, they never listened to him. And today, there is another wave of scramble for Africa. The Chinese are here. The Russians are here. The Americans are here. The Japanese are here. The Indians are here. Everybody wants a piece of Africa. This is a repetition of what happened when the Kemet civilization attained its height. Everybody wanted Egypt. Everybody wanted the Kemet city to rule it. They are coming back. They are coming back in waves. And this time, they are more crafty than we think. And so it is important that we recognize this thing, awaken faster, identify ourselves, then we take back what belongs to us. So, Panafets will be there to help us understand who we are, give us the opportunity to reconnect. Then in that particular, you asked me a question about the activities that will be taking place. There will be a Pan-African conference, business conference, networking and seminars that will organize. Then there's the festival, cultural festival, which is going to be taking place where we'll see different cultures. We have already groups, cultural groups that are coming from Zimbabwe, Botswana, Nigeria, that they have already given us their go ahead, and we have those from Zimbabwe who have paid their flight already. That is assurance. So we are certain that they will be in Cameroon because they have already paid their flight. So there will be cultural manifestations. Then there will be the African fashion show, which will be to reveal the beauty of Africa and the kind of regalia we put on. You see, Somebody saw me with all this, and he said, the person asked me if I was a witch. I'm putting on a lot of calories. The person asked me if I was a witch. I said, anyway, one of the things I'm realizing is that the person does not understand English. Witches are women. He asked me if I'm a wizard. So I told the person, you see, you have been brainwashed to an extent. Network problem. So we need to get to that point where we know all these things. So there's going to be that manifestation. Then there's going to be a Pan-African award, where we'll be kind of appreciating some Africans who have been doing great work for Africa within the past period of time. So my plea to every African, wheresoever you are right now, is to go book your flight. And Cameroon should be the destination. If we all can gather here, whether you are in which country, whether in Africa or in Europe or in the United States or in Southern America or wheresoever, if you can book your flight to Cameroon, that will be something so great. I want to say, for those of you, I just want to use the opportunity and say, if you want to book your flight at the moment and you are in Europe or in the United States, I think we have our beloved sister, Dr. Tata, who is the host of this particular event that we are talking about.
Oh, me.
Yes, you. So we had to bring in Dr. Tata to host this event, even though she is not aware, but we want her to host the event because we believe that hosting the event through the Pan-African Daily TV will give more insight to a lot of Europeans, among Africans who are in Europe, who will not be able to participate in the United States, who will not be able to participate in other parts of Africa. So we'll be pleased if she's there to host the event. And we want to see most of you come along with her. And I want to say also that if you want to book your flight to Cameroon and you're finding it difficult, you can also contact Dr. Tata. She can help you. She knows the way in and out of Cameroon. So,
of course. Thank you. Thank you for that honor.
So, I believe that event is an event that no African should miss at this hour. Let's give ourselves the opportunity to reconnect to motherland and to make the difference.
Thank you very much, Professor. Yes, thank you. You said something, and I think this is really something that we have to talk about, like the scepter that you're holding in your hand. It's a symbol. Yes, it's
and this one.
Okay, let's just say the stick. Okay, it's a symbol in the African culture. What does that actually symbolizes? That's power, knowledge, wisdom, or
this in Africa. You see, we are a totemic people. Our culture is a totemic culture, and that is why you see different people with different totems. When you see this one I'm holding, if you look, the head is that of a lion. And This particular thing is more of power. I will not have the time to explain to you everything about this stick right now because every part of it has a meaning. Every part of it has a meaning. So we'll take another time to actually learn all this. Then I have a bag which is filled with calories. You know, in Africa before, calories was a sign of wealth. And when the Europeans came with their money, we did not stop using calories. Today, it is not just for wealth, but it symbolizes spiritual authority. I'm having 9 of them on my cap. You see, there are 3 here, 3 here, there are 3 this way. For some of you who understand what these numbers mean, 3 is a symbolic number, 9 is a symbolic number. And if you go back into our various cultures, you realize that the various number of notables that the king keeps close to him are 9 of them. And the question is, why 9? We'll get to answer that question to another day. And you should be curious to learn. So all these things are symbolic. The key that I'm wearing on my neck is a key, is an access key to something. And all these are symbols. They give them to title men in my village. So at the moment, I'll just tell you they symbolize power. But it has a deeper meaning beyond power.
Absolute.
Yes, which we will discuss on another outing here.
No, because Professor, it is really one of the things that you see the fight, or one of the revolutions that Africans are carrying out in the world is the need for our artifacts
True.
to return back to its original owners from the looters.
Thank you.
Because a stick like this, okay, compare it to the biblical serpent which Moses took and it turned, and then so that power and the symbols of the totems that you were talking about. I mean, that one you say is a lion, looks for me like a crocodile anyway, but maybe because of the decorations, but it's a lion really from the face. But you see the power even in Christianity, in the Bible, when Moses picked up a scepter, was a stick like this, and it became a snake, or or to use to divide the sea. That's a the symbolism of power and what all these artifacts represent in the African culture. But we have them stuck here, and they make chunks and chunks of monies about you, like anthropologists, cultural ambassadors and leaders and activists and revolutionaries that are saying we need to build a one Africa. Ain't you really concerned about, or we're still looking forward to these kingdoms to unite and say, bring back our artifacts, because that's actually the wealth that we can rebuild Africa in terms of not even talking about reparations, but this that they keep making monies out of our ancestors and our spirituality symbols.
You see, you just struck something that is in the center of one of my activism. I am really perplexed how when these guys came to Africa, they called us savages. A savage is someone who is violent In fact, it's not. It's an animal even. A savage is a wild beast. A savage should not have a brain to be able to do carvings, to pen down history in sculpture. And when they saw all these things, they said, as savages, we cannot keep them, so they prefer to carry them. They stole them from us. And as you mentioned, they are in their museums right now. What are our symbolic artifacts of our civilization doing in their museums if they are more civilized? When you go to those various museums in Europe and the United States, and you can find what belongs to Africa in their museums, what do you think? We have asked some of them these questions directly, and we asked them, we need back what belongs to us. They belong to Africa, and Africans need them. Our children need to know that this is the work their ancestors worked for, and you people came, stole some, burned some, destroyed some, just because you wanted to hide our civilization. So that you wanted, in fact, they intended, they had they crafted their agenda, decided to do everything possible to use us as slaves to build their civilization, then took away everything that belongs to us that could remind us of who we truly are, and kept in their museums. And if I need to go today to see those things, I need to pay for it. They are making money, but we need all those things back in Africa. We need all of them here. And of recent, I was happy when the president of Germany was in Tanzania to actually apologize for the evil that their ancestors did. It is not a far ancestor that committed that crime, so they should be able to also accept the blame. And when he apologized, that's the first step. He also said some artifacts that were stolen will be returned. That's another step. We love that. But more needs to be done. That should go to every African. You need to call on these guys to send back what belongs to this continent. And we are calling on every European to force their governments to send back stolen property. Our stolen property should be sent back to this continent because we need it, and we need along with reparations, because those particular artifacts have been given them money. We need they should send the money along with the artifacts to Africa. Those things belong to us. They belong to us. It is time Africans get to know that Europeans stole those things. We did not give it to them. Some of their scholars lied when they wrote and said they were sold to them. No, we never sold those things to them. They stole them. They came looting, breaking places and collecting what was not theirs, destroyed palaces and stole artifacts, even took the symbols of our gods. There is Tengonso from the Solan who is still in Germany. We need it back. Afuakom, we need all those artifacts, all those symbols of the gods of the land back into this continent. Those who keep on holding or keeping what belongs to another are thieves. So we should be able to openly say that European governments are thieves because they stole from Africa and they have been making money out of it, and they know it is not theirs, doesn't belong to them, and they still keep keeping it. So every African should ask these people to bring back what belongs to us. Those are symbols that contain power. Those are symbols that carry significance, which most of them do not even know. The truth is that they might not know the harm that they have caused to a lot of young, in fact, of this young generation. This is about 2 centuries today since they came in for their colonialism, and 5 centuries today since they came into Africa and looted Africa, stole even our human resources, carried them to Europe, carried them to Brazil, to the United States, to build their own civilizations, and destroyed us. We can't keep on saying that we just need back the artifacts. We need artifacts and reparations. We need reparations as well. And that should be the cry of every African, wheresoever you find yourself. We cannot allow neocolonialism to spread like it is already doing. The scramble for Africa, this time they will not come to take artifacts. They will come and own our houses. They will come and own our lands. Because I will tell you this, they are jealous why they were not the ones who were born here. They are jealous why it is not their continent. And so they are creating inroads, buying lands everywhere. And if we allow them, one day we'll get up and we will not have a land to stay in anymore. Africans, you need to know this. These people are coming for us. But like I said, most of us are sleeping. We need to be awake. Those of us who are awakened, it is our duty to tap everyone that is asleep to wake up. The time for the awakening is now. Africans, rise up. The time is now. The ancestors have heard some of us, our cries, and they are standing with us. And they are doing everything possible to restore our continent, to restore our lands, to restore our people. Give yourself the opportunity to be restored. So make that cry. Ashe.
Ashe. Ashe. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I think I see a lot of the followers saying you need to come back on the show. You need to be a teacher. Those I think from the first conversation today, you just touched a little bit of the things that actually qualify the community to say he needs to come back. He's part of these conversations, teachings, and I think it's a good thing that you really came. I want to thank you so very much for making that sacrifice. I mean, organizing a mega event that is coming up. I mean, those of us in those things, we do understand how it is. And I also thank you for the opportunity and the invitation. Please, I just came from Cameroun. I'm still not even breathing.
I know, right? I know. You're just,
I'm still not even breathing. But whatever, like you just said, I'm calling on the audience. I know a lot of people that just love Cameroun regardless, and just have the empathy and the sympathy, and also because their ancestral roots are there. But there's just a lot that are curious about Cameroonians, the diversity of all the African cultures in Cameroun, the also the openness and the friendliness, the weather, the food, the clothes, I mean the people. Like, you want, if you're struggling to actually, have an idea of what the continent looks like. I always say the one stop that you can take an overview of everything that you can find in every other country is Cameroon. It's not just
Yeah.
because I'm a proud daughter of this land, but that's the fact. That's why it's called
This is
small Africa. The vegetation. So if you go like to Ethiopia or to Tanzania and other parts, the vegetation that you find there, you find in Africa.
that's right.
The diversity, biodiversity, the flora, the fauna, all the different things. Like, you go to Serengeti, you're going to find, the wild. You go to North Cameroon, you're going to find the wild as well, right? In the eat food. Oh my God, that one, you for the
I
simple reason. For the simple
know.
reason, if I can really raise money for my ticket, I'll be there to moderate just for food. The food, Cameroonians, what my mother told me when I was with her all this while, she told me, you can eat the food in Cameroon and you stay 10 years healthy. So if you eat traditional organic Cameroonian food for
Food.
1 week
Yeah.
continuously, you are reversing your health 1 year if you don't mess it up again. So that's why they
Yeah.
say that
You
if you
know,
want to detox the system.
you know, what we believe here in Cameroon, and as well as I think some places in Africa, Africans believe this. Your food is medicine, as well as your medicine is food. And if you eat food that causes trouble in your system, then you are a caca. That is why we believe in organic food here. And when you eat food that is prepared in Cameroon, from the places that we will permit you to eat from,
Mhm.
you will surely want to be coming back. Food is medicine,
Absolutely.
and medicine is food,
Mhm.
nothing more. That's why some of us, we do not take the white man's drug, because it has a lot of toxic inside of it. That's why we do not eat their canned food that they bring to us. I prefer to stay in Cameroon, and even if I'm traveling to Germany, I will carry my food to Germany. When it's finished, I come back to Cameroon.
You're just making me to cry because I carried all my food that I thought I will eat with my boys for 6 months, and it got stuck at Turkish Airline till today. Everything is just, I mean, I'm just like, anyways, we're inviting everyone that is actually interested. If you want to use a one stop and you say, oh, from the 30th of November to the 3rd of
Yeah.
December, I have a time, a
Okay.
line. What?
Oh, come in and say something. I almost forgot this.
Okay.
On the 4th, which is which is a Monday, we will be giving a special touristic excursion to all the diaspora that will be in that event.
Mhm.
This tour is going to, we'll do a city tour of Douala and the city tour of Limbe. Then we will visit the paramount chief of Limbe.
Mhm.
Then from there, we'll need to go to the various touristic sites that are there, and finally end in a place where, for those of us who have never been to Africa or in Cameroon, where most of our ancestors who were stolen out of Cameroon and taken to Europe were carried through, take you to Bimbia, so that you get to feel the spiritual atmosphere of the environment and connect with your ancestral roots, so that you can be empowered to face life anew. It's very important. So the link for registration to the event will be sent so that we can get to those of you who have the interest to be part. You should indicate so that we know. Thank you, Doctor. I think I've said what I wanted to say.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I mean, the trip to Cameroon is going to be really a facet trip. I think it's a journey that has to begin, had already begun with some other. But what I want to make that I want to make some what do I want to say? Some declarations. Is that it's just the beginning. This one-stop event gives you the opportunity actually to say, you know what am I doing in this number of days? I have an event that I attend, and then I profit, a benefit, I take the advantage, to sightseeing. And Douala particularly has the footprint of colonial, spaces on the continent, where particularly the German footprints are actually there. I don't think, I know people just want to come vibe and get fun and stuff like that. That might also people who are curious, and for historians who actually are looking for such opportunities, you would really have it. But I'm telling you, the biggest fish that I ate. I mean, I've been to other African, but the biggest fish
Special
ever,
black sand.
the biggest fish that I ate was equivalent to give me the fish oil. You know what I mean? The fish oil, but components that we take in our fish oil, vitamins and stuff like that. The fish that I ate was equivalent to give me the vitamins in your fish oil vitamins that we take every day, which is a very unique component of our immune system and our health, right? So, just for the fact of buying a ticket and going to detox your system, I mean, I think exploring, those are just value added, value added. I can only recommend. Already told you we're being on the ground for Cameroon in the next centuries to come. It's not something, it's a one time, because what I can guarantee you, if you go one time, you'll go all the time. That's a fact. You And because this is an annual event, I think this is something that we'll be having to. So why not? I'm like, I just came, but I'm like, I'm already back. And I just came also for a while, but actually Pan African Daily is relocated. We're just trying to put infrastructures and everything to ground. And it's in Cameroon because it's the heart of Africa. It's the small Africa that we can connect all others. And also because charity begins at home. Why not? Of course. I mean, so I want to thank you for coming to share this moment with us. And again, our condolences to every African community that is actually grieving. It doesn't matter whether it is the people in Mamfe Manu or the ones in Sudan, which we don't even have actual facts and data on them right now, or the ones in Israel or Palestine or whatever. If it happens to one, it's a spillover effect. So one of the things we also do on the Pan African Daily, even though we own our narratives, we focus on us, is we just share that positive energy of Africa, to the whole world, those that are grieving, even in your individual families, and then your communities or your neighborhood at one time in life, people also always going to be grieving. So remember that we share that with you, and particularly for our people in Manyumanfe. I mean, this is things that we've been sharing online. Not only that, we also sympathize, and your pain is our pain. That's also Ubuntu. That's the reason for the United Africa. One pain, if the other doesn't feel it, you're not African. And that's why we never started war or created machines that will, because we just realize if you kill somebody, you just kill yourself in African spirituality. So please, Yeah. So yes, I look forward, and like you said, yes, of course. I'm just from Cameroon 3 weeks ago, so I know how to get back to Cameroon. If you want to book a ticket and you really say, "Oh, this is something for me," I also know spots in Douala where we can accommodate up to, I think, a party of 5 or 6 or 10 people in a very in a very cool atmosphere. Cameroonians are just like every African, right? Um, and the more reason why the other nations had to come to us, or the other African countries, was just because of this um uh, um um uh, now I'm back in Germany, and German words are beginning to into my mouth, because just when we kept speaking, I was in Cameroon, French words were already in my mouth and stuff like that, and I started finding my words. But what I want to say is, my Ghanaian teacher, I think yours still, in primary school, was a Ghanaian. Ghanaians actually came to us in Cameroon when we were growing, and most of them in the English speaking region, where we're speaking about, were Ghanaians, right? And they were so nice. So that's how we get to connect with them. I think, Professor, you have most of your colleagues even till now also. So Cameroon is a beautiful place, regardless of the situation. You
That's
know,
right.
we would have been live yesterday, but the professor said, you know what? Let's just calm down. Let's just breathe and then do it today. And I'm bringing something that, even though we cry, we'll also be happy, to celebrate life. And that's the event that is coming up. So
That's
hook
right.
me up and I hook you up. And so reparations say, can we please buy Dr. Tata's ticket for her as a family? Oh, woo! I already had a most. I mean, Cheryl is here, and Stevie is here. They already did so much for my Panama trip, and I think the newcomers have the turn now. Preparations, go ahead and just coordinate that. That will be a very, very big thing. And I think we Professor, we cannot come and host without Pan African Daily getting and Pana West, Pana
Not
Pep.
possible. Not
Are
possible.
you kidding me? As the best media platform that connects everybody, what are you trying to tell me here? Tell
You
us.
cannot. You must be there with the TV.
Of course. I mean, I this is so beautiful. I'm telling you, this is beautiful, because we are going to grab our award. And then somebody, when he saw me post your picture also, and um okay, and also said, I'll be there. And I like, on when I posted and say you're coming, and he said, oh, I know the professor. He's organizing a big event in Cameroon. I'm a Zimbabwean poet, and I'll be there. I already have my award. I have my ticket. He was so excited. Like, he's watching us right now, because he told me, no matter what happens, I'll be watching. I'll be watching. And he's so excited. He said, I've never been to Cameroon. We know Cameroon through football. We know Cameroon through dance. We know Cameroon through beautiful girls. That's what she said. And just like, I'm hoping I'm from Zimbabwe, but that I'll get me a Cameroonian wife. And I'm like,
Ooh,
wow.
that's getting serious. Let him come. We have so many wives here in Cameroon, so we can give him a
Oh,
wife. Yes.
wonderful. Oh, you see? This is great. Look at this. All right. I'm such a fortunate and Pan African Daily. Hey, thank you so much, Reparations, for coming up with that. And that's one of the reasons I was just hesitating, like, just come again to Cameroon in these days is not easy. Yes, you wanted to say something.
Uh, mm, I just wanted to say a lot of Africans do not know. Maybe they've been hearing about Cameroon. Dr. Tata keeps saying Cameroon is small Africa, Africa in miniature. When you come to Cameroon, if you come to Cameroon, you want to meet the equatorial deep forest, you find it here. You want to see the savannas, you meet here. And even if you want to see the desert, you will see the desert in Cameroon.
Yes,
You
everything.
you want to see, I don't know, everything that concerns Africa. When it comes, get to the different. Most of us here, we are the Bantus. You know, Bantus are in Central Africa, in Tanzania, in South Africa. In Cameroon, most of us are Bantus, but we also have the Sudanese. How they call it? Sudanese here. We're in the northern part of Cameroon. We have a variety of people in this particular. We have pygmies here. We have Africa generally here in Cameroon. And so we expect that when you are coming to Cameroon, don't only think of the events, but think of connecting back with the entire African spirit. There is something about this continent which a lot of persons do not know. It is not material, it's not physical, it's spiritual. And the reason why you see the fights, the infights every day, Europeans coming, the Chinese coming, the Japanese coming, they are feeling the thing, but they cannot see it and they cannot touch it. And they think might be it is the material, and so they are coming to pick up the material things. But what will make the African different is the same thing that our ancestors, after the destruction of the Kemet civilization, who decided to take inroads into the continent, discovered and stayed silent. Because quietness is their secret. When they stayed in the silence, they were doing something. Their orientation had changed from just being materialistic. They were no more pursuing material civilization. They were no more pursuing material development. They were pursuing another kind of development, which is self-development, spiritual development. And that created a certain atmosphere over the continent, which a lot of people envy, but they don't know the source and they don't know what that is. So we need you to be here to connect to it. And once you do that, when you go back to Europe or to the United States or wheresoever, you find yourself strengthened again to live life afresh. I know every day we are being sapped. Every day we are being sapped. But believe me, you'll be reinforced, re-empowered, not only with food, but also spiritually when you come to Cameroon.
You see, that's the question Bloodline is saying. And I wanted to ask this question because I've also been thinking about it. I know we still have time. This is just the beginning. We're November, what? I think November 7th. And the event kicks off. So we have a couple of 3 weeks to go, or almost a month, right? 3 weeks to go. So why is it that, it's okay, let's keep it short. Is it possible to also organize a dating, program? Because I can imagine most of us, we started here on, we say we need to do intermarriage. It's also a unity. It's also a platform for uniting or unity. But imagine Bloodline, do you have single concubines?
There are a lot of them here in Cameroon.
Do you have single what do you mean? Do you have single concubines? I mean, that's crazy.
Anyway, the question she just asked, I want to say this. That can be done because in every gathering, there is a possibility for you to get connected to a life partner. So, coming to Cameroon from wheresoever, Cameroon has not only handsome men, beautiful women, So
So you're also in the market of, I mean, not just the men that are coming for the women, but also for the men. I know that. No, that's cool. That's
yes,
because
so
those
the
are
men,
topics that we never touch here when we're talking about Pan-Africanism. But we know a lot of our men, our women are, I mean, are just looking to connect spiritually with the locals with the diasporans, so that we can build a perfect black families, as we say together. So why not? That could be a program, isn't it?
that will be,
Okay,
in fact,
so we're
that
putting
thing,
dating, we're
I'm
putting a
sure,
speed dating, we're putting dating on that
yes,
Cameroon tour.
they're very
Dating,
important. Very, very
dating
important.
festival.
It's included.
If I'm going to host, honestly speaking, there has to be a forum for dating. Women and men have to be able to come up and say, I'm single, I need a woman. This is who I am. And you will see women also, not just on and men to the, okay, I'm also single. Why is it impossible for Africans to always talk about issues like
Uh,
this?
you know, in relation to the various, the system, the culture from where we come from, we were raised, Africans were raised to see it to be a pride for a woman to stay, let a man move to her
Mhm.
and say, I want to marry you. And that was a good thing, and it's still very good. But I also think that in relation to the fact that most of our people have been scattered all over, for us to bring them back home, we need to get to that place where it should be easy for us to make our intentions known to one another in an open conversation. And how would that come if we do not create it? So I think
Mhm.
it is time to create it. Doctor, stop laughing.
I'm not laughing. It's just I read some of the comments here, and it's just great. Look, like brother Imhotep is saying, please, Dr. Susan, you should try to return guests like this on this show a couple of times. You know, it warms my heart because sometimes you actually don't know the space from which. But I want also to really give a shout out to Mr. Fongot, who is here, because I mean, one of the things, the person that actually like, it's a must-have guest on this show is Professor Akuhmbom is the must-have guest, and please, your audience will love them, and all of them. He would just be coming from time to time again. I was like, okay, oh, okay, and because I had to displace Reverend Dr. Kweku today, because of the incident first in Cameroon, which we actually had to, share our solidarity with Cameroon. That's why I had to push Reverend Dr. Kweku, who had to come today live and to take you in that space. So we're really happy, and I'm happy that the audience like it. Our executive team, Cheryl, Stevie, and all of them, they're here, joined, nobody left or something. They're supporting, engaging in the conversation and engaging the audience. So that's really the global family that we have here on Pan African Daily TV that is so unique, so really unique. As you can see, nobody is disputing, everybody just shares the love. Everybody just, yeah, we don't criticize, we don't even argue, even when we don't know, even when we talk about some uncomfortable facts. But we listen, we learn, we do our research. And nobody argues here, nobody says despicable words here and stuff like that. So this idea of marriage is very important, because we need to
Very,
build
very
strong
important.
African families. We need to rebirth our ancestors. We have
True.
been mixed and mixed and mixed for long. And
That's
that's
true.
not lineage. It's a spiritual topic. It's not just
True.
in the way that we've been taught to talk about dating or to talk about concubinage or something like this. It's a typical African culture that I think when we talk about Pan-Africanism, we should not only talk about other things, that we also put Pan-African dating. In the palace in those days, women would come out and they feel free to even choose their men. It was not even the men choosing the women. You've all messed up everything with patriarchy. It was women that actually would go to the men and like, and we see it in Madea
Women,
all the time.
you know, today, what we call in the West parade, we call it
Mhm.
whatsoever, parade. In Africa, we have what used to happen. We used to, there's a way most of our societies used to operate in different cultures
Mm.
where they keep women for a week or two, they feed them well and dress them and bring them for a display so that the prince can choose his wife. And every one of them was happy to do that and might be a warrior, might be a notable, might be an individual who is of repute, who has repute. You want to choose his wife, women come for that display. The question is, can men not also come out for that display so that women can choose them? I think that is where we should also be discussing. That is where that idea of marriage in Pan-Africanism should be discussed. So we need to create a forum like that.
I mean, you're going to come back on this topic maybe end of this week because
No
this
problem.
particular topic is something that I've been saying. You know, this idea of Eurocentric ideas to say, no, the children, they have to get to know themselves, then find their wives, and then you fall in love with somebody. It
No,
some of the times it works, some of the times, most of the time it never works. I
that's
am
true.
of that old school that still think our parents did well
To
by
choose for them.
choosing the wives for their and the
Yes,
son and the mothers arrange marriage for their sons into a family and their daughters. Everything has been messed up and they stay together in this culture. Now, why do we demonize our culture when we talk to people? No, you cannot, it's an old way of fashion. Everything that was old way of fashion was good for us and our community, and the family stayed together and they could harmonize. When there's a problem between the family, the both families could come together and they sit together and they arrange and they talk to both. And it was like that even till today in Cameroun, is still like that. I had this conversation with my mom a couple of times. Say yes, because you, the mother, know your daughter as she was growing up as a child that you raised her. Any other person that they would just meet don't know her. It's the same thing like your son. You know your son, you know the kind of woman that will fit your son. If your son is a lazy one that doesn't cook, your son is the one that is still growing like a boy, so you look for a strong, powerful woman for them. But now that we leave the choices because of democracy and all those kind of things, you see why 80% of our marriages are failing.
what is democracy in the first place? Is democracy. What's that? Anyway, one of the things I want to say is when you are parents, when your mother chooses a wife for you, that's the best choice that you will ever have. I'm sure we are going to discuss on this topic so that we explain why parents used to choose wives or husbands for their children. There,
Okay.
there is a spiritual connotation to that, and it needs to be noted. A lot of us need to know it was not just done haphazardly.
Mm-hmm.
It was not done for friendship. It was done for the purpose of complementing the human for a statement. The purpose of marriage is for harmony. Once a family is in harmony, the entire cosmos also gets to harmony.
Yes.
And today, the cosmic forces are in trouble because people get into marriages which are not harmonious, and they create unnecessary instability in the whole atmosphere. And so, look at it today. In 100 marriages, there are 99 divorces. Why do we think we are too wiser than our ancestors? Are we too wise? We need to get to understand this. So we'll discuss this and see the place of dating in African marriages and understand why it used to happen that way and how it could be reinvented and updated in our time to have a better society.
Thank you. But you read the comment that Fukan is saying. That's exactly the African. The men had to prove themselves. You know, like they could protect the family, they could provide, they could guide, they could teach. And so they most of them were in the traditional African setup. They go to hunting. If you will hunt and bring even a lion or a gorilla or something like that. So you were a brave man that could protect your family, could feed your family, could take care of the entire family. That was how when they went to those into those fights and came back, and that's why we were called warriors, not because we were warmongers, we're warriors. And they will come into the community, everybody will like, did you see? He went and brought a lion home. And every woman will be wanting, and every daughter will want to marry him because he was a brave hunter. A hunter means somebody that can feed the family. Not today, you know, when we want to talk and people talking like a man, our most are saying they become their babies and we begin to baby them. No, stop babying your husbands. You know, they're not babies. That's what Dr. Mata told me one day. Stop
That's very true. They are not babies. When you baby him, the moment you baby him, that masculinity of that particular man is killed. So the baby is very dangerous. And that is the Western culture where we want to talk of. You see, let me clarify something here. Today, we get married and we are given marriage certificates, and we see where a woman carries a man's name. That has never been an African issue. That's a European system. Europeans used to see women as slaves. Yes. And when they go to get married, there was supposed to be a document to show that that lady is his slave. That's what they call marriage certificate. Was not for you to recognize as part of his home. So he gives you his name as a slave. The same thing they did when they came here and took our ancestors to Europe and to United. They gave them their names. Their women were slaves, but African men had never seen women as slaves. Nowhere. They were not giving their names to their women. It was normal for them. They used to believe that their wives were a complement part of them, in fact, an aspect of them, a completion of them. And in no place was a woman supposed to be treated like a slave. We have been told that we treated our wife or we treat our wives like slaves, but that has never been an African culture. So we will need to correct all those things so that our people get to know the truth. European scholars deceived you, and you have learned lies, and you are holding them, and you are detesting your own culture. We need to go back to the past. Absolutely. You know, it just happened in Europe that women gained the right to vote. Why?
Honestly, Doc, Professor, if we stay on these topics now, I don't think we're going to burn. Please, we have to pipe it down. We know that the Cameroon event is coming, and one of
Ah,
the
yeah.
topics that we have to talk about, I'm still looking for the combination of speakers to talk, and I would really love our women to get engaged in this topic because this one of the fundamentals spirituality concept or construct of the
My
African
phone will shut
is the
down. My phone
family.
will shut down. My phone will shut down. My battery is down.
Okay, okay. So just conclude. Just conclude, and then let's all go to sleep, and then we'll get.
Uh, Ancestral blessings to all of you. I invoke the name of Amon Ra and I speak prosperity in your endeavors. I speak favor in your endeavors. I speak glory in your endeavors.
Ashe, Ashe, Ashe. Oh my God, it's gone. Woo. All right. Thank you, everyone. I think Cheryl, I feel you when you say we have to go back to these traditional marriages, and this there's just so much for us to learn. And honestly, even though we speak, we laugh. It's not funny because we've really been taken away by the political systems, and most of the time, instead of talking about spirituality roles that actually unite us together, we keep talking only about things that really divide us. And politics is one of the things that divide us more than anything. That's why I love our past first lady Michelle Obama, who said it and said politics. Even when they asked her, "Do you want to stand?" He said, "No, no, no. I never. I only supported Barack, but it never was my thing because politics is one of those things that divide and to conquer. The moment you're in one party, political party, the other one becomes just the fact the opposition, and that's already division. So of course we have to focus on really things, topics on this continent that it doesn't matter how these topics just in a small group can help us, but we need to build a family status. The basis of the African is family. And what the world has ever taken from us is not just our resources. Even in America or everywhere we are, the black man is the one that is being incarcerated because they have to break the families. And so each and every family that is just standing up today is a big gain for us. But what are we looking about? We we must organize this. I learned a lot from my mother in Cameroon. He said, you have to take, you, the women, the mothers of the continent, have to take upon the role to organize these marriages like we used to do in the past. He said, don't look at Tumi and Iya, your sons, and you think that, no, it's okay. Because we know it's not just give them the choice they choose. That's a Euro concept, and that never worked. And we see how, I mean, doesn't work in our own context, in our own country, in their own, okay, but in our own, no. So I'm looking forward, people that you know that are specialists in this topic on our family structures, marriages, how were traditional marriages organized. And most of them are these our mothers that we see, they're still in love, in relationship, in family matters, in community matters, because their parents actually chose the partners for them. And then number two, they had to agree because a lot of respect was there. They put the family values first and not individual values. But if you see the other construct of the marriage is always my own self first, right? And then the idea of, a lot of things. It's just we have to go back and love our traditions. I love it. I mean, at sometimes when I would tell my sons, they were like, "Oh, mom, where are you coming with this?" I said, "No, no, no. That's what you have to be. That's what you have to be. Marriage, relationship, children. These are topics. Singles, marriage people. We hold conversations like that. Diversity, the mindset on the continent and the mindset in the diaspora, bring people together to share. And I mean, I'm looking forward after these conversations to get groupings where we put our difference together. Those that are happily marriage kind of challenges they've gone through to share this beautiful experience so we can begin to teach ourselves again, right? So I think it's a wonderful thing. Somebody saying King Bongane is a master on that. Okay, we'll reach out to King Bongane. The third is a master on Bantu marriages. Wonderful. And it's also a professional and a professor and a spiritualist and a king. So yes, we need to start building back the basis of our, the family tree is the power. Once it's broken, any other thing can pass in between. So and just like the Europeans, even the older ones, the elderly ones, they still had partners, right? And so we should not really like always follow always follow stuff like that. So I thank you so much, and I really want to thank Reparations. You said you sent a donation for my ticket to Cameroon. Thank you so very much. I think all of us are inspired. You all know that it was my trip to Panama was also sponsored by Cheryl, by Stevie, and most Pan-African Daily TV. So we can do the same thing. Honestly, I'm broke. 4 months on the continent in Cameroon with the, you don't know Africa. Africa, you just give and give. The Africans are the only people in the world that knows how to give money. I mean, Black people, when I say Africans, we just know it's us all. Whether you're born in the diaspora, we're the only people that know how to give money because money to us has never meant anything. So I really look forward to your contributions. And it's an honor. I really would have to go. And some people, if you really feel like, honestly, on a serious note, if I never thought about it. He came, he saw it, and I'm just even more than motivated to say, why not? It's a week. We can make that out there. I know another stuff that people are really kind of like worried about visas. Visas are also one of the things that we need to talk about. So if you make a decision this week or next week and say, oh, I want to go and stuff like that, make sure you get in contact. We have our WhatsApp number, and the email is actually there, and the same email is our PayPal. You want to support, we have to be on that conference. Sometimes Africans have to travel now. We are also tourists. And that's a topic also. I think I'm looking for a guest. If I don't have a guest, I would handle that topic this week because it's been known, particularly in Europe. Kojo, you're watching me, and all of you that are watching me, it's a fact. Africans are only being seen like migrants. If anything is happening anywhere, oh no, it's the immigrants, the immigrants. Now the whole hype on the European news today is the immigrants, the immigrants, the immigrants that are coming in to do this, or how do we regulate immigration? But nobody tells you about economic travelers. Nobody, you will never see in any news where they say, oh no, Africans that came here for business people, business travelers. You don't see it on the news. So that's also another narrative we need to change. We travel, Africans travel, we tour, and we leave money in spaces, business, shopping, do business tours and stuff like that. Come on, give me a break. It's like every other African is a migrant that is struggling, So, I mean, programs like this, we put a hashtag and say Africans can tour too on vacation. We go on 1 weekend cruise and come back. Give us a break. What do you think we are, right? So yes, it's the same thing. We're going to be organizing the Berlin 1884 conference. I already told you that June next year. It's a 10-day tour. We have to go to where our roots were broken. We tried it and they broke us down the other year, but we're putting that as a tour for next year. So look out for that as well. Okay. So thank you very much. I think we've really exhausted a lot of time. On YouTube, we don't really bother anymore because it's not like we're creating content that they're going to be putting ads on it. No, our programs now, whether it's 3 hours, run free of any advertisement. You've seen it. We don't collect any AdSense or gadgets from YouTube or anything. They disabled everything, and that's really helping us even. So you can watch our videos non-stop. It's not like before. When they used to, you watch a video every minute is paused. So we love it that way. We love it that way. It was also something like you produce good content and they just come and drop some kind of things that don't even resemble us, right? No, we don't want that anymore. But the good news is yesterday we broke up the TikTok, like we shut down TikTok. Please, people, those of you that were there, Kojo, I mean, you were there. I mean, most of us that are here were there. We shut down TikTok. The African youths were live online. You know, now we were talking about a 10K. Now we have about, I think, 22K followers. Most of them were just like, we have been waiting for this. Young people are not on YouTube. They're not on Facebook anymore. They call that as old school. And we're saying we want to empower our young people. They can't come to Moses, will not come down that mountain. We have to go to them. We have to focus and be looking at, just like Mama Harriet Tubman were looking after all the missing. And so one of the things that's, I said it here, and I'm just still repeating because we did that last night with Patrick Kasarim, and it was awesome. The spirit on that space, the young people were just pumping hearts, roses, and like, we're so happy. And now we start putting all the teachings of Professor James Small, those hardcore teachings, you know, that YouTube would never allow us, or they pull it down, or all those conversations that were brought down, or, you know, or just muted, even on Facebook. No, we get it now on YouTube, on what's TikTok, and for our young people, because it's a teaching platform for them, and most of them are just happy that we were there. So I want to congratulate all of you also that were following, and we'll be back there on Wednesday. Like, we don't want to just leave them, you know, but it's just 30 minutes, one hour or something with them, you know, motivate them, encourage them, empower them, and just tell them to stick on it. And most of them are children born in the diaspora who've never connected to the continent, but majority are also watching from South Africa, Kenya, Nairobi, you know, the all eastern part. And yeah, we have to. I'm so proud of us. I'm so damn proud of us, people. I'm proud of us. So good night to you, family, and we see ourselves tomorrow. I think Reverend Nina now will be coming up, and then Professor Baina would come up on the 10th. On 18th is Professor Kaba Kameni who will be coming up, and then anything in between, I'll just let us know. So good night to all of you. Be proud. We are building the continent. We are building a generation, and we should be proud of that. So good night. Bye.
You are watching the Pan-African Daily TV with Dr. Susan Tata. The Africa we want: unity, consciousness, our culture, our spirituality, our history. One Africa for Africans worldwide. Motherland's calling its diaspora home. Join my voice. Join my team. Join my campaign. Campaign 21 hashtag 1 million subscribers on the Pan-African Daily TV YouTube. Be a volunteer. Apply now. Be the new Africa.